Manchester City able to bring it forward with intent and pace. It's Kevin De Bruyne, gets the ball out from underneath his feet, and the deflection takes it in. Manchester City back on level terms. Chelsea ahead for only 7 minutes, and the relief is tangible.
Milner. In by Silva. And Milner. And Lampard! Unbelievable! How do you react to that? A story pre-written. That is staggering.
Mahrez. Still Riyad Mahrez. Oh, that is majestic. Manchester City have turned it around with a goal of real, genuine quality. How they needed that.
Well, this is just absolutely brilliant work from Riyad Mahrez. He might have gone through Tomori's legs on the way through, which with the Balaga will find it hard to allow, but that's exactly what happened. But he made his mind up.
De Bruyne drifting away from N'Golo Kanté. Kevin De Bruyne! Oh, wow, that's brilliant! That is magnificent! Game changer, point of world-class difference. No one stops that. No one on the planet. Genius.
Never mind Kevin De Bruyne. It's Heaven De Bruyne. I mean, so many players, Peter, would have gone down in these circumstances. Watch N'Golo Kanté, who knows he's wrong side, and he makes a little go at him. A lot of players would have hit the ground, not De Bruyne.
Zinchenko has crashed through Azpilicueta, and he kept it for Aguero. And Aguero had a hit and scored gloriously! Truly a fabulous goal from Sergio Aguero. He missed from 1 yard, he scored from 25.
This is from stunned to stunning.
A very good afternoon and welcome along to Matchday live from the Etihad Stadium. Here are some pictures we picked up before outside the ground as our boys in blue made their way into the Etihad Stadium as we face Chelsea in our 5:30 kickoff this Saturday evening. Young Rico Lewis there. Nathan Nicky as well, of course, will be hoping to keep his position. Remember, if you want team news, you get it here first on Matchday Live. I can give you a little sneak peek, though. That man you just saw there, Kovacic, is fit enough to return to the bench, which is great news, especially, of course, after picking up some of those injuries at the week. And young Doku there, who made his way into the stadium, I can tell you, he is one of 3 changes from the game in the middle of the week against Copenhagen. Doku does start. Will that man be joining in? Well, I'll be revealing that very, very soon. And we've got a great panel of guests to help us build up to the action. 3 points needed today, though it seems as though Arsenal are doing the business in the 3 o'clock kickoff. And of course, with Liverpool winning earlier on as well, that does mean 3 points is crucial, as is every 3 points between now and the end of the season. Welcome along. My name is Spellman. So great to be with you, and so great to be alongside these three legends in the form of Andy Morrison, Richard Dunne, and making his Matchday Live full debut, Nicky Weaver. Nicky, great to have you on the show. How are you feeling about tonight's game?
Yeah, listen, it's going to be a tough game. Chelsea are a little bit of an up and down team at the minute. You're not quite sure what you're going to get. They've obviously spent huge sums of money, but they have got, you know, some very, very talented players, and they can hurt you. So it's a dangerous game. There might be a couple of players in their lineup that might, you know, want to shush a few people if you like. But yeah, hopefully it's a City win. We expect it to be a City win, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to be an entertaining game.
Andy, we remember the reverse fixture at Stamford Bridge earlier on in the season. It was like a basketball game at times, 4-4. Can you see maybe something similar like that playing out here, or do you think it might be a bit of a different affair tonight?
I think it'll be different. I think that was a one-off. It was a game that, you know, baffled me in how we managed to, and I'm sure it frustrated the manager, the way the turnover of possession, transitions were far too many. It's not what we see with City. So I think we'll see the pattern develop of us keeping the ball, dominating, and but they're a very, very dangerous team, as we've just said. Dangerous opposition and a lot of quality players. So it's a really tough one today.
Really is indeed. Richard, I'm going to come to you in just a second, but it has just struck 4:30. So that does mean I can now bring you the Manchester City starting 11. You get it here first on Matchday Live, and we line up like this tonight. In goal, of course, an ever-present Edison is between the sticks. And then a back four consisting of Kyle Walker, who captains the side, alongside Akanji, who comes in from Stones in the middle of the week there. Of course, he started Copenhagen. Stones is on the bench, though. Ruben Diaz alongside him, and Nathan Ake does keep his place as well, as does, of course, the ever-present Rodri there in holding midfield. In the middle alongside him, Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden. What a return he has made since coming back from that 4-month injury. We're going to focus in on him in just a little moment, and Phil Foden as well, arguably one of his best seasons in a City shirt so far. Alvarez also comes into the team, a second of 3 changes there, and the third and final change, as revealed at the start of the show, Doku as well over on the left-hand side, and completing that starting 11, our big man up front, Erling Haaland. Looking to the bench as well, we've got Ortega, Stones, Kovacic back from injury, as I said, Bernardo, Gomez, Nunes, Oscar Bob, Sissoko and Rico Lewis. Richard, just first impressions at that starting 11, very, very strong.
Yeah, you look at the squad and you can't pick a weakened team over. Possibly John Stones would have been one that you'd expect to start, but whether Akanji comes in makes it any weaker or stronger, there's no real difference between the two of them. He's probably got a little bit more pace, and if the game does open up and becomes end-to-end, then possibly that might play a factor. I think in possession, I love seeing Stones walking into midfield with the ball and being available and being able to be a playmaker in there is usually great. But yeah, so many good players, and you see Doku tonight, he'll be one player I'll be happy to take on the Chelsea defence.
Let's start with Doku then. Of course, he does come in to say, why do you think Pepper's opted to put him out on the left foot for today's game in particular?
Yeah, well, listen, it is a player that's come in. He's had a little bit of an injury, which has sort of hampered him a little bit, but he's a player that gets you off your seat. He's got blistering pace, and no defender wants to defend against pace. Yeah. You know, he's got a bit of end product. He gets assists, he gets goals. So I think Doku now is going to go from strength to strength, and I think he'll be a really astute signing for us. Also coming into the team, who didn't start in Copenhagen, but he's more or less started kind of every game of the season, Julian Alvarez. And I don't think we've had a chance to focus on him too much on the show. He kind of seems to just almost go under the radar, but he really has been key, hasn't he, to Manchester City's kind of form recently, but also the success in the season so far, Andy?
Yeah, he scores goals. You know, in many ways, he's instinctive in the box. He's somebody, you know, possession-based, and the amount of times in around the box will go wide and will come back out and will go wide. If Alvarez has the ball, he's getting a shot off. If De Bruyne gets the ball, he's making a forward pass. And these players are slightly different out of the mode a little bit of what we see week in, week out with City. And there's energy, his press, you know, he is, I don't know whether it's a trigger, he's one of the ones that start the press. Yeah. Him and Foden are very explosive in their first movement, which then allows everybody else behind that to latch on. And he's an incredibly humble man. You know, the way he carries himself. We're just watching him getting off the bus, and there's just this young, you know, energy that that he brings every single match day. And you know, Pep's a huge fan of him. You know, because there's times you think, Bernardo, would you swap it, whatever? But he seems to be the one that Pep really believes in. Is a, you know, an integral part of our strongest team.
He really is. He said some brilliant stuff as well earlier on in the week, speaking about how he remembers watching that Aguero goal, and you know, given the affiliation we have with a few Argentinian players, he really wants to try and emulate what we've seen in the past. And although he's only been here a couple of seasons, the fact as well he's played so many roles, has that surprised you, Richard, at all? I know it surprised me.
Yeah, I think generally with young players, they do get shifted around till they find that experience and that know-how and that sort of solidifies that one position that they're really elite at. But I think with him, similar with the Argentina team, there's so many good players around him. He has to fit in where he can to gain that experience, to become the leader, to become a main number 9 or 10 or wherever he may be. But I think he's been fantastic. I think the fact that we've missed Haaland for 10 or 11, 12 games of the season and not really noticed massively, because he's carried the can and scored the goals, helped with assists. Like Andy says, he's very young, but he leads with his enthusiasm and his energy that he shows, and he sets off the press, and he just seems to be an all-rounder. And for a lad so young to have won everything basically that you can win in football, and still want to run and still want to press, it's very, very impressive.
It really is indeed. He almost a kind of part of that kind of City spirit that the fans love, which is 110% commitment every time. One player as well, just wanted to pick up there, who I think has helped carry the team in the absence of some big names like Haaland and De Bruyne, Phil Foden. What have you made of his season, and particularly getting to see him in the middle a bit more this year, Nicky?
Yeah, I mean, it took him a while to sort of find his feet. Pep drip-fed him into the team. I think this is his best season so far. He's obviously took up a more central role when De Bruyne was about injured, and he's certainly taken his chance, and he's adding a lot of goals to his game. And it is so important for us now, the way he manipulates the ball, his movement off the ball, the way he brings other people into play. But what impresses me most about Phil Foden is if he loses the ball, it's his instant work rate to win the ball back. So his game, listen, he's a super talented player. He works really hard, and he's one of those sort of real special talent that doesn't come around very often, and is going to be so important for City in the running. And it'll be important for England in the summer as well.
Absolutely. Andy, I'm always interested as well, because I know obviously you love to look at tactics. Him coming into the middle, have you seen him bring anything maybe into that middle part of the pitch that we don't get with other players? How impressed have you been with him?
Well, it's his first touch. And the ball, he has a nickname, I'm not sure if it's bubblegum or something, where in training, where they say the ball is just stuck to his toe. And in them tight areas where the pitch is so suffocated by the opposition, you need to be able to receive the ball and it's almost stuck to your toe to be able to play a forward pass, because the distances between the units now are so tight, and that's what City have to break down almost in every game. And his ability to be able to find them space and get on the half turn, and he will come back out. But when he's freed up and he's allowed to go and express himself, you know, I mean, for me, you know, he's just behind De Bruyne in that ability to open up the opposition and find that killer pass. But coming in, essentially, I think that's where we'd always seen him. You know, when we go back to Xavi and Iniesta, when he was young, we always thought that that's where he would be, dictating the play, and he's had to feel his way in, you know, and we've seen so many players that have started in wide areas, and Pep, over a period of seasons, has you know, begun to evolve into that player that can, well, he can play anywhere. And it's interesting we talk about him, but when do we stop talking about him as a youngster, and we allude to actually a generational great talent? And that's not just us through our blue tinted glasses. You know, this is right across Europe. You know, Phil Foden's having a good season. No, Phil Foden's been in phenomenal for 4 or 5 seasons now. You know, so he is there now. He's arrived. It's not a potential for me. He's that good.
And the versatility, though, as well, because obviously I think we've all loved seeing him in the middle, but earlier on in the week against Copenhagen, there were times when playing on the right where he had a first touch and move, you know, and took it down the wing, like Mahrez used to almost. He has this amazing capability to impact the game wherever he is on the pitch, which not everyone has, and you can't train that, I guess, really, Richard.
No, that's the thing. It's like sometimes you can get players who stand out on the wing and they wait till the ball that comes to them, but people find him and gravitate to him because he's that good. And every time he receives it, his first touch is correct. So if he wants to get down the line, his first touch sends him down the line. He very rarely makes a mistake or a bad decision when he's in possession. I love him. I think he's one of the best players in world football at the moment, and the goals that he's added has just brought him to the level that we'd hope he'd get to, really. I think for like Andy says, for 4 or 5 years he's been building and getting better and getting stronger, and now he's like, must be one of the first names on the team sheet because of what he brings to the team. There's certain players, and you need to be a top player to add something to this side, and he adds a lot to it.
He really, really does. Another name that's always first on the team sheet, and while you're here, is Ederson. And I'd just love to know kind of your take on him, but also as well just how key he is in the way that City play.
Yeah, he obviously made a mistake in the week against Copenhagen, which is very unlike him.
Yep.
But since he came to the club, he's sort of, you know, we're sort of used to him now and how he plays. But when he first came, it was sort of revolutionary, if you like, and sort of, I used to call it goalkeeping on the edge. It's just the norm now. He plays a high line. Teams don't really press him because he's that comfortable with the ball. He always finds a way out. But what really impressed me, you know, he makes big saves at big times as well. So he's actually, you know, good with his gloves. But his first thought is always long. Can he get someone in behind? I think you'll see today with like space of Doku, Haaland.
Yeah.
You know, if Chelsea play a high line, he will look to hit that, you know, 60, 70 yard pass. So it's not just the hoof up the field, it's the pass, and he tries to get players in. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him, and he's not had a bad City career so far, has he? So yeah, it was very uncharacteristic mistake in the week, but I think we'll allow him that one.
Yeah, we will indeed, because as you say, it's a very, very rare sight to see that. Tactically, Andy, I mean, it's difficult to actually know how Chelsea are going to actually set up and go about the game, because I think they're still finding their feet, and we'll bring you Chelsea team news in just a little bit. But what do you think will City's approach be to today's game? I don't think it's going to be a case of, you know, maybe business as usual. It's going to be tough today.
Yeah, it is, and you know, when I look at that team and I try and work out where they're going to be, for me, I think Kyle will be really high. Will give us that width on the right-hand side. I think Doku on the left, and then it'll be almost be a box four with the three behind, which will, you know, it'll be Diaz, Ake, and Akanji, and then it always seems a box four, and then but Kyle gives us that on that side when it doesn't look like two wingers. It's Guardiola is really high when he plays, which just is to push the opposition back and stretch them. And but they're dangerous because we were speaking about it earlier on. I'm not sure there's a clear identity, possession-based, direct. What are Chelsea? And that brings its own problems because you can't really practice in the week for how they're going to. You have some ideas in that, but you know there'll be 2 or 3 players that might cheat occasionally, which causes you a different problem.
Yes.
You know, not tracking, which then if you don't punish, you get turned over and then you're in trouble. They've got pace and they've got real quality in there. So. But you've got to believe that if we're at our best, we're going to have too much for Chelsea. Although there seems to be, when we played them last time when we had the 4-4, they were just in a bit of momentum. And I feel like the last couple of games, they've just come into a bit of momentum again. Absolutely. So this is a very dangerous game.
It is indeed. We know these 3 points are crucial. It was a dangerous game, as you said there, though, at Stamford Bridge. 4-4 for the defence, Richard. And I think we saw a little interview or clip of Diaz I did before when he came in. That will be in a defender's mind, I'm guessing, that last time you played against him, you conceded 4, and we know Diaz loves a clean sheet. So do you think that'll play a part in them really trying to keep it even more solid than usual today at the back?
Yeah, it was a very strange game from City's point of view, because it was so open, because it was so end-to-end. It's not what the manager likes to get involved in. So I would imagine not just focusing on the defence, but focusing on the team as a whole in terms of keeping possession higher up the field longer so it can get people into the right positions. I think once the game becomes open and a counter-attacking game, we know that City are vulnerable at times. So it's very important that they do control it. And when they don't normally get done like that twice, they learn from what the mistakes, if they've ever made mistakes, they learn the little bits from them. And I'm sure today there'll be a lot more control in the game. It might be a little bit slower, but it will sort of tip the balance in favour of City rather than Chelsea. And that's I think how you would help that defence is slow it down, be a little bit more composed in what we're doing, and then you know at that front end that they're just going to open teams up, they're going to create chances, and they're going to score goals. And
that control, Nicky, just to maybe try and, as you say, maybe dictate more the rhythm and the tempo, is it the whole team, but the midfield as well is a big part in that, just so it isn't just flipping basketball.
And I think you don't see them sort of games at the Etihad.
Yes.
City are going to obviously that game we're talking about was at Stamford Bridge. It was a basketball match. It was end to end. They were, you know, the midfield was wide open. The gaps are too big. We probably won't see that today. City will control the game. They'll have the lion's share of possession like they do in pretty much every game they play. And it's if they can get into them little pockets, them little areas, get your special players on it like De Bruyne and Foden, you know, can they get the ball on the half-turn, drive at people, commit people, slip the forwards in? So the midfield's going to be key today. But, you know, in my opinion, I think most people's opinion, we've got a better midfield than them.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. Right, we've just seen, well, actually, the goalkeepers there have just taken out to the pitch behind me. Edison and net there as well. Ortega's on there as well. Richard Wright, Scott Carson as well. So it's not long usually, and then the first 11 will follow. But before I bring you team news, you've got that all-important WhatsApp number on the bottom of your screen. That's how you can get involved with the show. Any questions for our guests, please do get them in. Or maybe you want to pass comment on something we've spoken about, you can do that. Just use the number below. Right, let me bring you some Chelsea teams news then. We brought you the City one. This is how Chelsea are lining up here at the Etihad Stadium. We have got in net Petrovic. Then as we go to the defence, we have Gusto, Diassi and Collywell with Chilwell, who captains his side. Casido there holding alongside Fernandes and Gallagher, of course, who scored those important goals against Palace earlier on in the week. There's a name that'll be very familiar with Manchester City fans. What a season he is having in a Chelsea shirt. Cole Palmer. You also have another name familiar with Manchester City fans. We just spoke about him, Raheem Sterling. And Jackson completes the forward 11 there. Andy, I guess I'm going to begin with the elephant in the room. Two ex-City boys there on the pitch. I mean, let's maybe focus on how good Cole Palmer has been in a Chelsea shirt and what sort of threat is he going to carry today?
Well, he's got quality, a wonderful balance. You know, he carries the ball so well. He's got a great check where you can fall off your chair if you're in the stand. You know, it's excellent, composed in possession of the ball. And you know, I know somebody that was with the last England camp, the under-21s, and he was there. And I asked them who was the outstanding player, and it was Palmer. You know, he said, you know, he just is on a different level to the rest of them at that point. Like, you know, and I'm sure City would love to still have him here, but he wants game time. He's ambitious. I think it's a fabulous quality to have. The fact that I'm willing to go, I want to leave, you know, the champions because I want to play football and prove myself. You know, so that's testament to the character of the boy. And we've seen enough, you know, with this season to know that not only has he gone and, you know, just sort of slotted in, he's gone in on a phenomenal season so far. Yeah. And again, a major threat.
He's almost their star man. And we were actually also just saying as well, though, another man who's key to a lot of City success, Raheem Sterling as well. And we know the threat that he can carry in, and he can hurt defences, can't he? And he can really get at a team. Yeah,
people don't like defending pace, and he's got pace to burn. He plays on the shoulder. He's always making runs in behind. He must be a nightmare to play against. And me, Andy and Dunne were talking about it earlier. When you think about what City paid for him, the service he gave to the club, and then what we sold him for, unbelievable really, business from the club. He was fantastic here. He won a hatful of trophies, and I think he's often underrated in what he actually. Pep obviously always speaks really highly of him. I actually think he's underrated and undervalued in what he sort of gave to the club, because, you know, for that 6-7 years he was here, it was absolutely phenomenal. And I think he's the same for England as well. I just think he's one of those players that just goes under the radar a little bit, and you don't realise how good he is. I think it's when you look back on his time at City and realise, you know, how good and how successful he was.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as well, though, you know, you wonder, Richard, I don't know if you have this, because they are players that are so familiar with City and Pep, the way we play, do they have little bits of insight maybe that they're able to give to their teammates and obviously to Pochettino as well?
Yeah, I'm sure they know how City would sort of face them as an opponent and what they would do and where the spaces would be and where the opportunities are for Chelsea to counter-attack. And when you look at Chelsea's team and you think, how will they set up? You sort of leaving Palmer somewhere on his own, and he's clever enough to know City's defence line up like this. This is where they're weak. This is where the spaces are. And if he could find those spaces and then release the faster players up front, he could cause problems today. But it's all right knowing, and it's all right being able to tell other people, but being able to affect it is completely different.
Yeah, it is. Well, one thing that Chelsea have been doing a bit more recently with Nicholas Jackson playing there is actually Jackson maybe being out on the left to then accommodate Palmer being as a false nine. Could you probably see that's how it might play out today? And what do you think Chelsea's approach might be in general, Andy?
Well, I'm looking at the setup there, and it's just not a familiar back four, you know. And you know, it doesn't matter what you've had, you need continuity, and you need communication and understanding when you play against Manchester City. That is so important because you're continually asking questions every single second. And City play in a way, I allude to it as dope football. They're waiting for the dope to switch off. And once you switch off, they will do you. So I just think when they've not played together, I'm interested to see how that... It just look familiar. I mean, Silva's been in there most of the season, and it doesn't look familiar. So that will be a weakness. But going forward, there's quality there. And as Dunne's just said there, you know, Cole Palmer, if it's a free role and City don't man mark, City don't, they do what they do. So he will find pockets of space, and then we'll have to jump to him and try and get to him to stop him playing a forward pass. But he has the ability, one of his strengths is to carry the ball. And that's what teams lack here. When they get the turnover, there's nowhere to go because they're in a deep block.
Yes.
So you need somebody that can carry the ball for 10, 15 yards to change the whole picture. So then other players can then find space to then try and get a combination to get out.
Yes.
He can do that. He can do it.
And Pochettino actually said, Nicky was saying that, you know, you're going to spend a lot of the game here at the Etihad, obviously having to have a low block and defend. He said, but my game plan isn't going to be coming here to just do that. So they are going to have the intention of coming at us. And I guess there's a slight worry, given we haven't quite been able to keep many clean sheets this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're not going to come and be negative, but they've got to be realistic as well. They're not going to dominate possession. They've got to stay in the game. But they also want to, you know, be a little bit expansive themselves. And when they get into certain areas, they want to try and hurt City. They're certainly not going to sit back and play us on the counter-attack 2 or 3 times at the half like some teams do. I don't think that's sort of in Chelsea's DNA, to be fair. But yeah, it'll be an interesting game. Like we said before, Chelsea have got some dangerous players, and if they can get those players on the ball in the right areas, they can hurt City. Because, as you said about clean sheets, they seem to be, you know, they seem to have gone out the window a bit now. It's we'll score more than you, where, you know, in our sort of generation, you really treasured a clean sheet. And I think it was Richard earlier mentioned about Diaz, really sort of a bit of an old-fashioned defender, really treasuring that clean sheet. And I think that's something that's just gone out the game a little bit now. And, you know, I think if someone keeps a clean sheet today, it'll definitely win.
Yeah, they will indeed. Looking at just Chelsea as a whole, obviously we know massive investment, and we know something like that takes time. Bringing in Pochettino, though, have you seen enough, Richard, from them that maybe as the back end of the season goes, and obviously into next season, there is something there that they're trying to conjure up? It's just a matter of it taking its time.
It's not very easy to see where the progress is being made.
Yeah.
I think throughout the season there's been moments where you thought they have the makings of a good side, but they just can't get that consistency. The last couple of games, was this the time now when they've turned the corner? They start to become a real solid team, but again, it's like Andy's saying, you don't recognise what type of formation defensively they're going to play today, whether it's a 2 or 3. They've got loads of problems injury-wise with their full-backs all the time. So for him to get a balanced side and something that he wants to develop, he needs to settle on certainly a defensive pairing that can work for them. That midfield pairing needs to improve on what it has been so far. And they need a focal point up front, someone who they can rely on and someone that they can sort of build off. And still now into February in the season, I've not seen it from them, so who knows, but they could quite possibly win the Carabao Cup next week, or in 2 weeks' time they could have quite possibly pushed themselves right up the league and finish the season well, and then you start to go, well, good, they've spent £1 billion, they've got the makings of a good side, and then they won't be too far off.
Yeah, just need to see a little bit more from them. There was one name I was happy not to see in the starting line, which is Nkunku, who we'll know as well, of course, bagged a hat-trick against City in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. Anyway, right, guys, we have got some very special guests here at the Etihad Stadium. It is Australian Rugby League side, the Penrith Panthers. They're over here for a World Club Challenge as they take on the Wigan Warriors. That's happening next weekend. So there are special guests today, and we were able to catch up with them before. I say we. Alistair Mann was, who's got commentary with Andy Morrison actually on the Manchester City app a little bit later. But here he is catching up with a couple of their players.
Well, thanks, Kel. Welcome to a very wet pitch side. I'm joined by 2 Penrith Panthers. We've got Mitch and Bruyne alongside me. I'm going to start with you only because you're on my left-hand side. Your first visit to the Etihad Stadium, what do you make of it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Mad stadium, good people, and really good to be here.
Are you a football fan, a soccer fan, maybe I should say?
Football fan, yeah. Man City, day one. Day one fan.
What about yourself? Are you a football fan? Do you watch English football?
Today I am. Today I'm a football fan. Bleed blue.
When you are in your off-season, do you watch a bit of English soccer maybe on the telly?
No, we do tune in, and specifically last year when we were sort of building our premiership run, we looked at successful clubs around the world, and we spent a bit of time looking at Man City and what they've been able to achieve, and it sort of was a bit of inspiration for us on the way to winning our three-peat. So yeah, to be here now, it's a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah, you mentioned the three-peat. You're a bit like City. You won the title 3 years in a row. What things do you say you have in common with the way that Manchester City go about their business?
I think just their character, and you know, each and every player, you know, has a certain purpose in the team, and the way they carry on themselves on and off the field is definitely something that we looked into.
When you're over here preparing, we're going to go on as the reason why. Do you like to come in and take in other sports and have a look what they're doing, methods they use?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, if we get the opportunity to watch the boys warm up and stuff, you know, we'll definitely take into how they prepare for a massive game like tonight.
Well, you guys are the champions of the Southern Hemisphere. You're up against the champions of the Northern Hemisphere, Wigan. I notice of all the things that you've won, you've not won the World Club Challenge. That must be something that it sort of spurs you on next week.
Yeah, definitely. I think this group that's playing at the moment, we've had a lot of success, but this is one thing that's eluded us for a very long time. So as much as we're enjoying this trip as an reward and as an experience, we've got a massive job to do, and you know, it's going to be a great challenge for us going against Wigan. They're an awesome side, but yeah, we're pretty keen to get that job done and take that trophy home.
What did you learn from the experience from St Helens?
Yeah, I think they play a bit of a different style of rugby league, and yeah, they came and it obviously meant a lot to them. They played that way, they unsettled us, they got in our face, and you know, we'll be expecting all of those things next week as well.
You're talking about this big challenge ahead of you. What has been the preparation? What have you been doing since you got over here, and what's the plan up to the game?
You know, we obviously you know, learned a big lesson last year's challenge, and you know, adversity is just a preparation for greatness, and you know, we've been obviously building our combination and style to obviously be better for this year's game. So looking forward to a big game up against a big team like Wigan. So, yeah.
It's interesting that to win it and back it up with two more, that's the challenge that these City players have had. What's been the most difficult thing for you in backing it up year on year?
Just being able to, you know, just to obviously uphold that kind of challenge. You know, to be able to go all out in 1 year, to be able to back it up the next 2 years to come. So that's definitely something that we took out of Man City, and you know, can't wait to see them go this year as well.
I'm going to continue that theme a little bit, because a lot of things are asked about these players at Manchester City, about how do you keep getting to that level when you've done so much already. How have you guys managed it 3 in a row?
Yeah, I think there's always different places you can draw inspiration from, but I think a real big driving factor for us, it's an internal one, is I think we just want to realise how good we can actually be. We're in this short moment in time where we won't have this group together forever, but I think we just want to see how good individually and as a team we can really get. And so it's not about winning games and winning comps, but that'll be a byproduct of us, you know, being the best version of ourselves. And so I think we're constantly chasing that, because we're nowhere near it, we think.
Just one final thought. I'm going to bring it back round to football, to soccer again. You're obviously the star names of your team and your rugby league in Australia. You'll have known about your Kevin De Bruyne's and your Erling Haalands. How much are you looking forward to seeing the best in soccer today?
Yeah, today's just an awesome day, I think, for us to sit back and just be fans. It's so different for us, and like you said, those guys, that's household names around the world. And so today I hope that they do a good job, and I hope they put a bit of a score on Chelsea, because I'm looking forward to it.
Just one final thought for you.
Yep.
Is there anything in particular looking forward from this experience?
Yeah, a bit like what Kenny said, just to be fans for today, and sit back and watch the big boys play, and you know, hopefully get the opportunity to just to, you know, see how they play and hopefully meet them as well. So see how we go.
Well, it's been lovely to speak to you. I'm not sure I'm allowed to wish you well, because I'm supposed to sort of be a bit Wiganish coming from the northwest of England, but thank you for joining us. Best of luck in that game. Let's go back to Kel in the studio.
Massive thank you to Alistair Mann there as well, and of course as well to the Penrith Panthers as well. Enjoy the rest of your time here as well, and good luck with that game next weekend against the Wigan Warriors. Now, Andy, I'm not sure if you'll know this, but it's almost a year to the 23 years to the day that you played your final game for Manchester City. Did you know?
Well, I read something yesterday. I didn't know. No.
I mean, obviously as well, kind of always a sad moment, final game, because as well you'd had a kind of rough time with injuries.
Yeah.
But you must look back with fond memories on your time at City. Do you have any favourite moments?
Obviously, the standout one is the playoff final obviously. You know, beyond that, you know, scoring on my debut, not knowing what to expect. Coming here, there's 30,000 on my debut, you know, and scoring the winner. But the, yeah, I mean, it has to be that moment there, you know, which, you know, was so important for the club. And, you know, I was so proud. I remember speaking to the lads, because we went across to the fans, and it was a show of appreciation for what they've been through in the season.
Yeah.
You know, that, and I thought it was a very humble moment from the players. But, yeah, that was the moment.
We did a kind of a little event before we were at the stadium. It's interesting because the moment of choosing to retire, I guess it never comes easy, because yours was kind of taken out your hand. It's never easy, is it? I guess, and I don't think we are probably aware of fans. It's a difficult thing to go through when you're hanging up them boots for the final time.
It is. I think it surprised me because I thought it was resilient and tough, and I find, you know, I've always got on and found a way to get through. Like, and you know, I think I'd say to any player now who was coming to the end, their career was cut short, I would say you're going to have to go through a grieving period. It's going to be tough for a period, but you'll come through it. But to think that you're just going to go into it and then just jump into something else when it's what you've done all your life and it's the only thing you know. You know, I'm 53 now. I still dream about playing football. I still dream about, like, where are my boots? I've got to get my boots on. I can't find my boots, like, you know, for a big game, like, and it's mental, like, at this age, still to be thinking about football. Such was my passion and love for it. And then to lose it. But, you know, within a couple of years, I went into coaching and, you know, and that kind of, like, it's the next best thing, I guess, to actually playing. But nothing replaces finishing a game of football, win or lose, hopefully win, and just sitting in a changing room. On a Sunday morning, life is different when you've won a game of football. Everything looks nice, your wife looks better, the kids don't annoy you. Everything is about winning and playing football, you know, and you can't ever replace that. You can't manufacture it. You can't try and create it. It has to be real. Yeah. And that's what I think. That's what we miss from playing football.
Do you remember your final game? And was it a game you knew it was your final? Because that's the killer, isn't it? As well, if you don't know it's your final game, it's kind of taken out of control. But do you remember your?
I remember my final game for City. Yeah, it was quarter-final of the FA Cup against Blackburn away. We lost 2-0. I didn't know it was going to be my final game. The manager left me out with the team after that, and yeah, it's you know, quite sad when you think about it. Looking back, I mean, I had 10 brilliant years. Yeah, I loved every minute of it. But yeah, your final game comes, and you know, I left the club that summer, and yeah, I'd been here 10 years, and it's even now I'm only 44 now, so it's still 10 years is still a huge chunk of certainly my adult life. So yeah, but you know, the friendships you make and the bonds you make and the special memories that you create for, you know, yourself, your family, and the fans as well. And it's great that we sort of come back now and talk about all those days with great fondness, because I think, you know, City fans of a certain, you know, it's not always been like this, you know, we've not always won, you know, been top of the league and all that sort of thing. It has been different. So I think from fans of a certain age, they can really sort of cherish and appreciate everything that we're sort of seeing right now, because as a lot of people know, it's not always been like that.
Absolutely. I mean, there'll be plenty as well watching, I'm sure, that will have also followed you home and away at home. And Richard, I remember with you coming in as well, almost like one captain to another. Obviously, Andy being a captain. Do you remember as well, almost learning maybe a little bit from Andy, I guess, when you first kind of joined?
Yeah, because I was a while before I was the captain at City, but people like Andy, like Sylvan, certainly Andy was a different character. He was more forward than I would be, and more of a leader than I ever was, sort of thing. We led in different ways, but you try and take a little bit from all of them and try and learn and see, well, that works, that's positive, that's what you need. And it's so important. It's like when I was at Everton, I was playing with Dave Watson, the 37, 38-year-old, someone who, like Andy, who spoke and led you through games. And you play first team football, you haven't got a clue what you're doing. You really don't know. And it takes people, like Andy was a talker, he would say, no, come right, be left, be in this position, drop off. And that's what sort of gives you the lead in football, and as a defender certainly. And then also that leadership is something that it soaks into it, and then without knowing it, you become that sort of person who dominates on the pitch and speaks on the pitch and tries to lead people into the right ways, and that itself lends to being a captain. So yeah, it's certainly
it's bit by bit, isn't it?
Bit by bit, all the way through. Yeah.
You must have loved having them two in front of you, Nicky.
Yeah, listen, lucky to play with some great players. When Andy came, I was only, I think, 19 when Andy sort of joined us, so he sort of looked after him. I mean, you wouldn't want to mess with him now, would you? You certainly wouldn't want to mess with him when he got his game face on.
Talk about my qualities. Don't talk about the violence.
That is a quality, Andy. No, but I think as well, having a bit of a joke there, but because of Andy's appearance and how aggressive he were and how loud and vocal he was, Andy was actually a really technical player for one with a sort of aggression and a presence like he had. He could ping a ball over the fullback, said 60 yards, no problem. So I think people often underestimate how good Andy was. So yeah, for me as a young lad breaking in the team, and then Andy suddenly comes along and you stood behind him in the tunnel, you sort of, we were a bit different characters. Andy'd be sort of growling at their captain, I'd be, he'd be beating his chest, and I'd be, trying to just keep nice and calm. But yeah, but listen, two great captains. Obviously, Richard was a great player for City, and he had a great career. Quite possibly the best centre half ever played with. I think that's without a doubt. And but he was a different kind of captain to Andy. Andy was very vocal. Richard didn't say as much, but when he spoke, you listened. He led by example. And yeah, one thing that they both did is they both week in, week out put the body on the line.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why City fans still love you all to this day. And Andy, do you remember a young 19-year-old Nicky coming in and when Richard came in, which I think was it 2001 or 2, I think it was, Richard, do you remember that, Andy?
Yeah, obviously Nicky had just broke into the team from Tommy Wright, and and then went on and established himself in the team, and there was. I always talk about the Ipswich game. We played a game in the Cup at Ipswich, and I had been out for a peer when I came back in, and I remember all their players in the bar afterwards were saying about the performance on the night, and it was the most incredible performance you've ever seen from a goalkeeper. It was just one after the other save, and the double saves, and we knew we had a special goalkeeper. And I don't need to blow wind up Weaves for what he's done, but I always know the importance of that game at Wembley, because if we hadn't won that, Weaves would have been gone. And there was a few players like that who would have been gone, our best players, if we hadn't won that game. And I only got to play with Dunne a few times. What amazed me was his pace for the size, because I always thought that he's not going to be able to run as quick as but it was phenomenal, especially in training. You do some running, and you could do these 20-30 yard sprints or whatever, and I used to try and keep up with him, and he was just gone. And to be the size and the power and the presence that he had, and be able to run, was a special talent.
Well, we were even saying as well before, it's very rare you'll sit on a panel, Andy, and actually be the smallest person on the...
Exactly. and the lightest.
Well, listen, we're going to have to let you go in a second, because you've got commentary today with Alistair Mann. So if you want that, you know where to go. That's on the official Manchester City app. And before we say bye to Andy, I need to ask you if you're still playing fantasy football. Because if you are, congratulations. How you've not given it up yet, like me, I don't know. Well, you'll know we do some special shows, and earlier on this week, Steph and Sean Wright-Phillips join Nat to talk about their fantasy football season and some top trades presented by Axie.
We're going to have a little look at 3 players that we think that is worth considering over the next few game weeks, or indeed maybe the guests don't agree with me. We're going to find out what they think. So from a City perspective, we always like to have a little look, and a City player, of course, that we think you should have. I'm presuming that you already have Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, one of them as well. But if you have an open spot for a City defender, what are you thinking about Nathan Ake? He's played, I didn't realise this until I read it, 90 minutes in every game since game week 16. And that was the away win at Luton. He got an assist in Everton, so we got the extra points there. He got 11 points in that game as well. 4 of our next 5 games are at home, Sean. So maybe he's a bit of a differential.
Might have to sneak him in my team.
Would he be your number 1 pick from our defence? Because obviously the rotation is difficult.
Normally I would have gone for Walker, but I think Ake, by the sounds of it, especially over the last few games, is picking up more points than him at the minute, so maybe I might just sway that way.
I think the problem with City defenders is you don't know who he's going to play, and because we play so many games, it's kind of like, do you put him in? But to be honest, look at that total points and the fact that he's getting forward and actually assisting, he probably is a little bit of a bargain at 5 million.
We've got 2 other players worth looking at. So, Richarlison. Do you want to say, though, that, of course, Spurs have got a blank game week in 26, but perhaps as a long-term pick. He's playing... he's a midfielder in the game, but but obviously he's playing more as a striker, which is always a bit of a bonus. He's played at least 60 minutes in each of the last 9 games. He's scored 9 goals in that time. Steph, have you had Richarlison or Son or any Spurs attackers?
I've actually got Richarlison in my team now, so I'm glad that he scored that many points because I didn't realise how many ton.
Was that after he started scoring or before?
No, before, because of his price. And I think that Son was going, so I kind of thought, oh, he's going to actually probably play a little bit more because they kept on rotating. But I do probably agree with Sean. I think he does probably go in ahead of Johnson. It seems like that at the weekend. But I do think with Son coming back, even if he does play, I think he's going to probably get on the end of a lot more of Son's crosses than probably has been used to over the last few weeks.
If you are open to any player, then you should take a look at Rasmus Haaland.
I just think Man United are so inconsistent this season. I know that he's probably hit a little bit of form and you can tell he's a lot more confident now than what he was, especially against Villa at the weekend, but you just don't know what you're going to get from Man United, whereas you look at the likes of Haaland, you know, he's back and you know for a fact he's going to get goals. You look at Watkins, who's been consistent the whole season, you're probably better off putting your money towards him or Solanke.
He won't go in my team, but it would be good for somebody if they use their free hit on a double game weekend, I think. I think he would benefit them because regardless of how they play, he always seems to crop up in the right areas. And now that he's got those goal-scoring boots on, I think he's going to be a problem for a lot of people.
Sean, thank you. Steph, thank you so much. So that is our FPL top trades, our 3 suggestions for you. Just take 2 there if you want. I'm absolutely fine with it. This has been presented by Axie.
Thanks so much, Nat, and thank you to all of you for joining us. If you've just tuned in, welcome to Matchday Live. There we go, we're back. Slight glitch in the system there. My name is Kel. I'm alongside Nicky Weaver and Richard Dunne. The boys in blue are out warming up on the pitch. We have got, I'd say, 21 minutes until we kick off against Chelsea. Team news on the bottom of your screen. Quick word as well, seeing Steph there. Massive congratulations to our women's team with a huge win yesterday, beating Chelsea 1-0 to put them level on points in the WSL. So just as it's tight in the men's league, it's so tight in the Women's League, and we're going to be bringing you the derby as well, a Matchday Live special in a couple of weekends' time, so make sure you tune in. But Nicky, you're making your full Matchday Live debut, a City hero, beginning with, of course, the big kind of moment that I guess kind of cemented you in City's history books, which was the playoff final. Fond memories from that day, I'm sure. Do you still remember it, or is it one of those that's a bit of a blur?
Well, I get asked about it nearly every day of my life, and that's amazing, nearly 25 years after the event. But yeah, it's as one moment, not just in my City career, my whole career. You know, that if I could pinpoint one moment, that'd be it. Absolutely incredible day, the way the game went, losing 2-0 with sort of 10 minutes to go, and you know, 2 goals in sort of one in literally last minute, and then Dicky scoring sort of 5th minute of injury time, whatever it was, and yeah, obviously then on to the penalties. So yeah, a really remarkable season. I was only young at the time, just turned 20, I think, at the end of that season. Wow. So that was my first full season, you know, playing the first team. So for it to end like it did was remarkable. And yeah, whenever you know I think about that day and that season and those couple of seasons, to be fair, it's yeah, unbelievable times for me personally. But I think you know everyone connected with the club as well. It was special times as well.
It was. I always wondered, because I ask about people taking penalties, but when you're trying to save penalties, do you have an eye in that? Do you remember? Do you know where you were going to go, or are you very much just go in the moment with your feeling?
I mean, listen. Nowadays, there's research into it. If you go into a penalty shootout, the goalkeeper will have all the penalty takers on his bottle of water and all that, you know, and the iPads and all that sort of thing. So there was no looking at their penalty takers. It was just a feeling that I had, you know, on the day. And luckily, you know, I saved 2 and they actually missed the target with another one. So they took 4 and only scored 1. So yeah, I always say a big part of that was the penalty shootout. Was it was at the City end. I suddenly must have looked a bit bigger and the goal a little bit smaller to the Gillingham players. But yeah, you get a little bit lucky in a shootout, but as a goalkeeper, you know, it's a chance to sort of be a hero, if you like. And yeah, amazing times. Amazing times, amazing celebrations as well. And we just, you know, we said there kind of 10 years at City. Do you look back with fond memories from your time, especially joining so young as well? Were there any other standout moments? Yeah, lots of standouts. And, you know, the year after we got promoted as well, so it was back-to-back promotions. Then we got relegated, then we got promoted again. So, yeah, you know, and then I had some serious knee injuries and I missed quite a lot, and then to come back and play my sort of last season, 30-odd games, you know, that was something I was really proud of, because at one point I thought, you know, I might have to retire with injury. But yeah, listen, I had 10 wonderful years at City, and so lucky. And it's only when you're I think when you're in the moment and you're playing and you don't really appreciate and understand how lucky you are, it's only when you're sort of retired like I've done and you look back and I think, wow, I spent 10 years at City. It's, I mean, I wish it were 10 years now, but, but yeah, just a great club. The fans do remember the history, so they know the story about all Wembley and everything. It's amazing now, even little kids come up talking, asking me about Wembley and stuff, so obviously their parents have told them. And yeah, it's just, it's a great club and yeah, one with a great history, and obviously, what a time to be alive if you're a City fan now.
Oh, well and truly. But I tell you one thing I have to ask you about as well, which is I've asked the man about it who came on, but you also came on to allow him to go up front. When you were asked to come on for Claudia Reyna and David James was put on up front, we've got some pictures of here. What on earth was going through your head? Did you know it was going to happen?
Certainly didn't know it was going to happen. I was sat on the bench and Tim Flowers, who was the goalkeeping coach at the time, there was sort of 10 minutes left and he just turned around and said, "Weeds, get ready, you're going on." And I'm sort of like, sorry? He's like, "You're going on." And I was sat next to John Mackin at the time and we couldn't really work it out. Then we saw Les Chapman, the kit man, pull that shirt out. We could see there James' #1 outfield shirt, and it was then only sort of apparent what was happening. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because my girlfriend, it was the first ever game she'd been to, and after the game she said, "Oh, does that happen all the time?" I said, "You'll probably never see it again as long as you live." But yeah, Jamo went up front. I don't think Claudio Reyna really knew what was happening when he came off, so Jamo went up front. He caused absolute havoc. I mean, he didn't know what it was doing, so they certainly didn't know what he was doing. And yeah, ultimately we got a penalty in the literally 94th minute or something, and if we score the penalty we're going to Wembley, into Europe. If we don't, Middlesbrough do, and unfortunately Robbie Fowler missed it, Mark Schwarzer saved it, and yeah, so it could have been a masterclass from Stuart Pearce there doing that, but I don't think we'll be seeing it again in a hurry.
No, absolutely not. And you guys have got, I mean, you played 81 times together, good memories together as well. I mean, you can see even, being with you, but good relationship as well off the pitch, Richard.
Yeah, great. We had I think when I first signed, the group needed to be strong because of being in the Premier League and coming through those. It's not all positive when you're in the Premier League. It was some hard times, so you needed a strong group and a good sort of connection between all the players. And I was welcomed brilliantly by all of them and by Weaves, and it just sort of grew then as a bond between the whole group. So when you look back, and for me, my favourite memories of City is the people. And that's what made City, I think, at the time, was because we didn't have the trophies, we didn't have all the glory, but we had history together and we had all that sort of stuff, and that's what really made it. I think on the pitch, one of my biggest memories with playing alongside Nicky was, do you remember that goal against Charlton? And I made a tackle on the halfway line against the guy, and it flew back 50 yards over his head into the top corner. And you're like,
I think that summed that season up.
Yeah,
I've done his trying to clear it. I think it's at the heel of I think it was Klaus Jensen. And it just flew out, and you're like, well,
what can you do?
Yeah, just the last minute, you're like, that's it.
It's so lovely, though, because actually speaking to you all, and whenever we have anyone else, on Dickie or Sean, that is always what it comes back to, is actually the camaraderie and the group of players. Also, something to what they say about this is it's the togetherness of the group that actually carries you through, really.
Yeah, listen, certainly before Richard come, we didn't have any superstar players. We were all just sort of hard-working, worked for each other, and that football, it was more like it then, was it? It's more difficult now. And listen, we used to socialise together and go out, but the players can't do that now because of social media and camera phones and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we had a really close bond, spent a lot of time together, and yeah, created some special memories for ourselves and hopefully the fans as well.
You did indeed. Well, listen, I can speak on behalf of the fans as well, and we can only ever just say a massive thank you for all you did for the club, and you'll long be in the history books. Now remember as well, we'll be back at half-time and full-time, so if you've got any questions in for Richard or Nicky, you can do that just using our WhatsApp number. And while you're here as well, I want to take a moment to talk about something which you'll know is incredibly important to Manchester City Football Club, and that is their work with City in the community. Now, we do some special draws each month. There is one coming up. You can head over to mancity.com/City prize draw, and there's some brilliant prizes up for grabs. In December, you could win up to £2,500, and Alistair Mann has caught up with the winner from our December competition.
Yeah, welcome back to Pitchside. Thanks, Kel. I've got one of the CITC prize winners here alongside me, Steve Roberts, £2,500 better off. How did that feel when you found out?
Unbelievable. Just before Christmas, and I looked at the email I got, and I just looked at it 3 or 4 times. I entered lots of competitions, but never expect to win. This one, CITC, I actually entered it because it was CITC, not the prize, and I won the prize. So perhaps that's the message, really.
Why were you so keen? Because it was CITC?
Well, yeah, and I come from the Longside Gorton area, and they do a lot of work in that part of the Manchester. So it was a no-brainer as soon as I found that it's only £5 a ticket, so anything I can do to help, it was great.
And knowing emails as we do, did you think there was maybe a bit of a wind-up this one?
I did at first. And then I bought the tickets. I do a direct debit, so I bought the tickets in October, and I suddenly vaguely remember. So then I scrolled back on my timeline. Oh yeah. So yeah, it was a very, very pleasant surprise.
Now I know that you're from Manchester and you're originally from Manchester. I can tell from your accent you've not been in Manchester a long time. You're obviously someone who comes from somewhere to Manchester to see the games.
That's right. We moved to Bicester, which is just outside Oxford, 1983, 41 years ago.
Right.
So we moved February, and in the May we lost to Luton Town when the famous jigger crossed Main Road. So it could have been quite easily. But any City fan knows that as soon as the bad times happen, we support them stronger. So there was that was it. That was cemented it. So we've had a season ticket ever since. So we were never going to lose that.
And where do you sit now? Where are you going back to?
South Stand level 2.
Right.
So
just tell me about. I mean, you've been through the bad times like so many. Just tell us what it is to be part of the good times now.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I've got a 19-year-old son that doesn't really know what it was like. But, you know, when you explain that we draw 2 games and it's a crisis, and I can remember where, you know, we've gone 15 games without a win, or I've travelled every home game to see us score 10 goals at home. So I feel I've earned the good times.
Well,
you've had so many bad.
You've had some good time. You had a great time with CITC over Christmas.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
I know the downside to winning is you've got to do things like this. That's
Absolutely.
the problem. Well, thank you for doing
Cheers.
it. Let's go back to you, Cal. Out of the wet and back to the dry.
Thanks, Ellie, and congratulations, of course, there to our December winner. Now, if you want to be our, current month, the January or February winner, well, you need to go to mancity.com/City prize draw, and of course, all the funds there go towards our City in the Community work, which does some really brilliant things in and around Manchester as well, and you can find details about that on the website. Also, this is a bit of a moment before we get final thoughts. I'm about to launch a competition that's exclusive to Matchday Live, where you could win a signed pair of Jack Grealish's boots.
Matchday Live to be in with a chance of winning my signed boots. All the best.
You heard it from the man himself. This is the only place you could possibly win those boots. Just go to mancity.com/feed for your chance to win those boots, and we'll be revealing the winner exclusively here on Matchday Live. Now, gents, we've got, just under 10 minutes until we kick off against Chelsea. So we'll do a little recap. 4-4 last time out. We've been saying on the show today, probably can't see it being as end-to-end today, can we?
Certainly not. No, listen, that was on, obviously, at Stamford Bridge. The game, it was seeing the goals going now. It was end-to-end stuff, particularly in that second half. And yeah, I don't see it being like that today. I see it being a little more tighter. I expect City to have, a lot of possession today and ultimately come out winners.
Yeah, absolutely. And for City, though, I guess, and we know how much Pep likes control, do you feel control is going to be a key component of trying to boss the game, but also see it through and win it, but in a calm way, not as that rich?
I think it will be. I think it's his preferred go-to sort of style for Pep. He wants to be in control of the game and of his players, and everyone sort of keep a cool head and play the football that he wants to see. Honestly, I hope it's end-to-end and it's 9 goals this time and it's a 5-4 win. But yeah, you would imagine that City will try and control it. They will try and dominate Chelsea, and you have to be aware because Chelsea have got some really good players, so hopefully it'll be exciting, but I think City are too powerful, and the run they're on and the couple of results earlier on in the Premier League make it a game that they have to win today. So it's a bit of jeopardy in it, and hopefully that'll just add an edge to it.
Absolutely. I mean, Arsenal scoring 5 goals against Burnley, Liverpool winning 4-1. But this is kind of now just how it's going to be between now and the end of the season. It's nothing different to what we don't already know. You want to win the league, we're going to have to win more or less all our games now.
Pretty much. It's going to be exciting. And one thing I would say is, you know, whatever position City find themselves in, they've been in that position before and they've won the league from there. Yeah. So if they're in front, they've won the league from there. If they're slightly behind with a few games to go, they've won the league from there. So nothing will faze them. They've been there, they've got the T-shirt. None of the other clubs have. Yes. I know Liverpool won it a few years ago, but they haven't been there consistently. We've seen Arsenal last year with a huge lead. That sort of soon, you know, withered away, and City won it easily in the end. Yeah. So listen, City have got the experience, but they've got to keep this run going, and they've got to win. Pretty much, like I said, pretty much every game to guarantee that.
That's it. And if we win tonight, and then of course, then we've got Brentford as well. I'll be with you for that as well on Matchday Live come Tuesday night. That will then put them clear, which will then, not sure we've been top for much of this season, but almost, I don't know, maybe mentally that might be a nice little boost for us just to kind of shift that if we can pick up these 6 points, Richard.
Yeah, I think psychologically comes really important now between now and the end of the season, because of, you would hope, the amount of games that City have with the Champions League as well. If they can go into weekends where they're leading, they're already in front, and they're winning games all the time, and the other teams are just going, these aren't stopping again, they're going to go again. And yeah, I mean, the players have been fantastic to have won it 3 years in a row, to have that hunger to keep going, and they just look like they're ready again. They're getting sharper, they're getting better, the performances are outstanding at the moment. Yeah, so long may it continue.
Long may it continue. I mean, and we touched upon it at the start of the show, Nicky. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne coming back from injury and picking up more or less where he left off, though. But it's these big games now where we're going to see big moments from the big players.
Well, that big players step up at big moments in big games. This is a big game. Listen, since De Bruyne come back, I'm not saying we forgot how good he were, but he's almost come back better than he was. Yeah. And he's hit the ground running. Obviously, Haaland back as well. So yeah, they really are a force to be reckoned with. And in my opinion, De Bruyne now is almost getting to the point where the greatest player in Premier League history is that good, and his impact since he come back, hopefully, we can keep him fit for the rest of the season, and he could be the key to winning the Premier League.
Absolutely, I think it's 2 goals and 5 assists in 6 games since he's come back from injury, and building a lovely partnership as well with the big man up front, Erling Haaland. Well, before I hand over to Alistair Mann, who's with Andy Morrison, he was with us earlier, who's got commentary on the City app. Prediction time. So Nicky, because it's your first full debut, I'll let you come second. We'll go to Richard first for his prediction.
I think 3-1. To City.
3-1 City from you, Richard. Nicky?
I was going to go 3-1, but I'm going to go 4-1 just to be different from Nicky.
Nice.
I just don't see us keeping that clean sheet, but I do see us creating plenty of chances and scoring plenty.
Lovely stuff. Well, listen, I've loved the show as always. Thank you, Nicky. Thank you, Richard. And thank you to you for watching as well. So remember, we'll be back at half-time and then we'll be back at full-time. So please do come along, get your questions into that all-important WhatsApp number. I can give you them as well at half-time. And before we hand over to Alistair Mann, we have got some predictions from some of our official supporters clubs over across the pond in the United States. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at half-time. Come on, City.
I'm Alec. I'm Lewis. I'm Levante.
And I'm Melinda from MCFC Nashville, and our score prediction for City versus Chelsea is 2-0. Let's go!
Hi, my name is Latham. I'm with the MCFC Nashville Supporters Club. My prediction for the game this Saturday against Chelsea is City wins 3-2 with either Haaland or Foden scoring the first goal. Let's go, City.
Hello, citizens. It's Mark, Seattle City Blues. Gonna say prediction for this Saturday game against Chelsea. 4 for us, 2 for them. Come on, City. What do you think, Pep? I think he agrees.
A very warm welcome to the Etihad Stadium on what is definitely a sodden Manchester evening. The heavens opened about an hour or so ago, and it has not relented, and if anything, it is creating an even more pulsating atmosphere. The floodlights have taken over, darkness has descended. It is not an evening game, but it is an evening kickoff. And the Blues come into this fixture with genuine belief that they are at the peak of their powers. They have been playing sensational football in 2024, and with the return to fitness of Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland, there is a menacing feel about the Blues. Two sets of players, well, at least those of the visiting team are in the tunnel. City's players are at the top of the staircase that brings them down to the base of the tunnel. So there is going to be a little bit of a delay before both sets of players go out onto this magnificent looking surface despite the weather. And there is a fixed look of determination on the players who have visited from West London. Rodri goes straight up to Cole Palmer, so does Julian Alvarez. In fact, all the City players are coming up to Cole Palmer to give him a pat on the back and an embrace, because he was a huge part of this wonderful setup here at the Etihad Stadium. So the City players are now lined up, waiting for the signal to go out into the atmosphere in the Etihad Stadium. Well, City may be most expert selection as favourites to retain the Premier League crown, but they face Chelsea this evening in third in the table, some 5 points behind the leaders Liverpool, 3 behind second-placed Arsenal. The Blues, though, have 2 games to play before Liverpool and Arsenal next do, and know that, as they did last weekend, that they can go back to the top if they can win them both. This evening they face a Chelsea team whose form has been picking up, and who of course grabbed a point against City in a thrilling 4-4 draw at Stamford Bridge back in November. Pep Guardiola has described this fixture as one of the toughest we face in the remaining weeks of the season. Well, the City boss has made 3 alterations to the side, which